Another important research outcome in this series of outcome of new quantum spin perspective is my third research article, that is new quantum spin perspective and spacetime of mind stuff. It established brand new theory of physics, that is quantum theory of yoga. It also established new physics or new branch of physics, that is physics of yoga or yogic physics. In this research article, the relationship between new quantum spin perspective and spacetime of the mind stuff is established. So as I told earlier, the fundamental building block of the loop quantum gravity is the spin network, which is used to quantize physical spacetime in loop quantum gravity, as it creates loop states in loop quantum gravity. I propose new quantum spin perspective using basic concept of spin network, and this perspective redefines the notion of quantum spin and also introduce novel definition of the reduced Planck constant. The implication of this perspective is not only limited to the quantum gravity but also found in the quantum mechanics, also found in philosophy of physics, in yoga philosophy, and in many other branches. Using this perspective, I also propose quantization of the mind stuff or spacetime of the mind stuff. Similarity between physical spacetime and spacetime of mind stuff provides novel notion to study the spacetime scientifically as well as philosophically. The comparison between physical spacetime and spacetime of mind stuff is also given in the end. So as I mentioned earlier, by giving the example of spinning top, whenever you might have observed the spinning top, because of the friction with the surface, as I mentioned, the tip of this top gets heat, which will transfer through convection process to upper part. So here, by considering this example, one can understand relationship between temperature and quantum spin. In this research article, we will see that how restlessness of the mind stuff affect streams of mind stuff by this analogy. To derive the equation, I have considered some concept of thermodynamics. In thermodynamics, temperature is defined as average kinetic energy of considered system of particles, that is 1/2 mv square is equal to 3 by 2 k beta T. Here k beta is Boltzmann constant. Now if we consider equipartition theorem, then instead of 3 degrees of freedom, we can consider 1 degrees of freedom, and equation of kinetic energy will be 1 by 2 k beta T. Thereafter, if I multiply numerator and denominator of left hand side by mass, and if I multiply both sides by square of radius, I can have equation number 2, that is p square r square over 2m is equal to k beta t r square by 2. Now if I consider scalar form of angular momentum, that is L is equal to Rp, the equation becomes L square is equal to k beta T R square m. Here till now we have considered classical domain or classical mechanics. Now if I consider Bohr's hypothesis, to which quantized angular momentum in atomic theory, then classical mechanics makes transition into quantum mechanics, and we will enter into quantum realm, and we will have equation 4, that is L square is equal to n square h cut square is equal to k beta T R square m. Here h cut is reduced Planck constant. Now if R, T and m are taken of the order of Planckian scale, that is R is equal to LP, T is equal to TP and m is equal to MP respectively, one enters into the realm of quantum gravity, and that is why we will have equation number 5, that is L square is equal to k beta Tp LP square NP. Now let us consider some important concept of spin network which are necessary to understand further steps. In spin network, total angular momentum J is more important than angular momentum L, as spin network delivers background independent quantum gravity theory, and that is why Z direction is priori unknown. In other words, in spin network, the value of J plays an important role than the value of M, and thus the total angular momentum capital J is used instead of angular momentum L. So quantum spin equation of quantum spin is written as twice of the actual quantum spin, that is J is equal to 2 into nh cut by 2. Here J is the total angular momentum and n is the integer number. So equation 5 becomes J square is equal to 2 square into in bracket nh cut by 2 whole square is equal to k beta Tp Lp square Mp. By putting the value of all physical quantities in equation, that is n is equal to 1, h cut is equal to h over 2 pi, it means h is equal to 6.626 into 10 raised to minus 34 joule into second, k beta is equal to 1.38 into 10 raised to minus 23 joule per Kelvin, Tp is equal to 1.416 into 10 raised to 32 Kelvin, Mp is equal to 2.176 into 10 raised to minus 8 kilogram, and Lp is equal to 1.616 into 10 raised to minus 35 meter. One can validate equality of equation. So therefore the value of left hand side of equation 6 is n square h cut square is equal to 1.1129 into 10 raised to minus 68 joule square into second square, and the value of right hand side of the equation 6 is k beta Tp Lp square Mp is equal to 1.1104 into 10 raised to minus 68 joule into meter square into kilogram, and numerical value and dimension of the left hand side and right hand side from validation one can say that are almost same, and hence quantum spin J is in the spin network the square root of product of Boltzmann constant k beta, Planck temperature Tp, Planck area Lp square and Planck mass Mp. Thus such a quantum spin can also be known as Planck spin at Planck scale. Spin network, as I mentioned earlier, spin network is the integral part of loop quantum gravity, which is used to generate loop states in loop quantum gravity. These results have far-reaching consequences in loop quantum gravity or quantum geometry. In equation 6, if we put n is equal to 1, we can have novel equation of reduced Planck constant h cut, that is h cut is equal to square root of k beta Tp Lp square Mp. So first of all I will introduce spin network. In quantum physics we know that one of the foremost discretized and quantized quantity which is studies is angular momentum, and quantum physics implies that a quantity that is discrete and connected with the space-time structure deeply is the angular momentum. In 1971, Penrose gave a discrete model of space which depends on concept of quantized angular momentum with the purpose to create a consistent model from which continuous classical geometry emerged out in a limit. So the spin network is the theory of quantized space-time in which the quantized space-time is created as a result, as it is background independent quantum field theory or quantum gravity theory. So the concept of the direction of macroscopic space is priori unknown due to quantum indeterminacy I mentioned earlier. Therefore, one has to deal with the total angular momentum or J value instead of specific direction or M value of angular momentum. And that is why total angular momentum is more important than concept of angular momentum. In spin network, the lines of spin network can also be seen as the world line of particles which explain trajectory of particle and which is analogous to quantum field theory. By assigning number to each line, it is known as spin number, which I have demonstrated in this figure. The spin number should be an integer number. The spin number is defined as twice of the actual angular momentum value, that is nh cut over 2 in terms of reduced Planck constant h cut, that is j is equal to 2 into nh cut by 2. In this figure I have shown spin network where each line of the spin network represents any compound system which distinguishes itself from other system. In spin network, particles or system transfer the angular momentum by regrouping into different subsystems or by annihilating one another or by producing new units. For instance, in the left corner, spin network line 3 is converted into another two spin network line, that is 2 and 3. Thereafter, next spin network line 3 is again converted into another two spin network line. By this way, these spin network lines, by regrouping or by annihilation, will give us spin network or spin form. Earlier in my other lecture I have explained that evolution of spin network, which is two-dimensional, gives us spin form which is three-dimensional. So in loop quantum gravity, spin network is useful to understand physical significance of Wheeler-DeWitt equation, which involves Hamiltonian constraint, that is Hamiltonian constraint ket vector psi is equal to 0. The solution of this equation can only be found in the atom of space at nodes using the spin network. So loop quantum gravity or quantum geometry studies that how these lines view in three dimension through sum over geometry in the quantum space, which is generated by the loop quantum gravity. The lines of spin network intersects and create nodes at the point of intersection that I have mentioned in the diagram of atom of space. These lines in the LQG are known as links. A set of intersecting lines produce a graph which is again two-dimensional, and quantum space in LQG is known as atom of space. Now, if I consider evolution of spin network, I get spin form I mentioned, which is the result of summing over geometry generated by the spin network of loop quantum gravity, which is covariant approach of quantum gravity. Now let us consider philosophical aspect of this research. In yoga philosophy, there are three kinds of space-time. First one is physical space-time, which is explained by modern physics. Second one is space-time of mind stuff, which is explained by my research work and combining yoga philosophy or Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Third one is space-time of mind stuff. Let's see some basic of these three space-time. Physical space-time is made up of five basic elements or physical elements, that is space, gas, fire, water and earth. In other words, it is made up of space, time, matter and radiation. All physical phenomena are occurred at this level. Whatever is perceived by human being at sensory levels belongs to this space-time. By careful study of the structure of physical space-time, one can understand that it will lead us towards study of space-time of mind stuff, and beyond this space-time of mind stuff begins. By the end of this slide, you can understand this. Physical space-time is governed by the space-time of mind stuff. Next one is space-time of mind stuff. All psychological events happen at this level. Everything that is there in the physical space-time is also there in the space-time of mind stuff. However, its form may be different In other words, every physical object is resided in the space-time of mind stuff without physical manifestation. So in the philosophy of yoga, there are three sort of bodies of observer who is observing any physical phenomena. First one is physical body or macroscopic body. Second one is macroscopic body or creator of the physical body. Third one is the causal body, which is polarizing agency for the rest of the body. So what happens? Let us understand hierarchy of these three space-time. In the presence of consciousness, the mind stuff begins to create this all physical object which were once without physical manifestation. This space-time is the boundary of the intellect that governs the mind and the ego on the mind stuff. Actually, from the mind stuff, ego, intellect are created according to yoga philosophy. The space-time of mind stuff can also be quantized, in which all characteristics of the quantum physics can be applied. Similar to physical space-time, this space-time is also background independent, and the space-time of mind stuff is governed by the space-time of consciousness. Space-time of consciousness is the third space-time in this hierarchy, and it is resided at the top. The space-time at which the eternal joy or the holy emotion of self-existence only stands. At the space-time of consciousness, the existence of physical space-time and space-time of mind stuff ceases, as only consciousness exists. The consciousness that governs the physical space-time and space-time of mind stuff resides here. Due to measurement problem, which I have explained in my channel, and collapse of the wave function, one cannot define the characteristic of the consciousness. In short, the consciousness, similar to wave function, can be felt but cannot be studied, while the conscious being is involved in its study in the meditative state. So in this diagram, I have shown relationship between these three space-time. From diagram, one can understand that space-time of consciousness is the universal set whose subset is space-time of mind stuff, and physical space-time is the subset of the space-time of mind stuff as well as space-time of the consciousness. Let us see how one can quantize space-time of mind stuff. When the mind stuff is studied as the space-time similar to physical space-time, classical as well as quantum, at least in principle, it gives birth to a new branch of physics, that is physics of yoga or yogic physics, which will in turn gives us quantum theory of yoga. In physics, subject of study are space, time, matter and radiation, while in physics of the yoga, the subject of the study is the mind stuff itself, or sometimes it is called mind. So what happens in the meditative state, as per circumstances and upward movement, the mind stuff transforms into the mind, intellect and the ego. In yoga philosophy, the observer is the consciousness or the observer that exhibits consciousness, and the object that is being observed is the nature, for instance external universe or physical body. So in this image I have shown how human or any animal perceives insight regarding any external object. What happens in this whole process? All three space-time are involved. The physical space-time behaves as external agency to comprehend the space-time of the mind stuff by the mind stuff in the presence of consciousness. The mind stuff or the mind itself comprehends the space-time of the mind stuff through this procedure. For instance, whenever you see any object, your motor nerve will send a signal to your brain regarding its identity. Thereafter, the sensory nerve will collect the identity from brain if it has in its database, and it will send to the eye, and thereafter you will identify whether this object is known or unknown. If in the database of your brain, the entry of this object is already there, you will identify it. If it is not there, you cannot identify. So this is how your ear, your eyes, your nose can identify external object or external universe. In reality, nature tends to show similar structure in both the space-time, physical as well as space-time of mind stuff. In this whole procedure, the consciousness does nothing, but without its presence, the mind stuff cannot function properly. For instance, without electricity, your computer cannot work, no matter hardware is tuned and all software are running good. According to this definition of yoga from Patanjali Yoga Sutra in the yogic philosophy, the yoga means yogas chitta vritti nirodha. It means to restrain the mind start taking various kind of streams or forms. So let us consider how one can quantize space-time of mind stuff. So in these two paragraphs, I have proposed quantization of mind stuff. The mind stuff will take various forms, streams or vritti, which is nothing but oscillation. What kind of oscillation in space-time of mind stuff, and responsible to create space-time of mind stuff. The space-time of the mind stuff is analogous to the spin network of low quantum gravity. The form or the stream is analogous to the quantum spin of the spin network. The quantum spin of the spin network is the fundamental unit of low quantum gravity that discretize the classical space-time, while streams or forms are quantum units of the space-time of mind stuff that quantize the mind stuff. What happens? The procedure described earlier in the first research article while describing temperature also happens in the space-time of the mind stuff. I have given analogy of spinning top. You can apply that analogy here. Various sort of forms which are actually disturbance in space-time of mind stuff creates the space-time of mind stuff that makes mind restless. This restless is analogous to average kinetic energy, and therefore it is these forms which generates the space-time of mind stuff. So without the evolution of spin network, the quantum space can never be the quantum space-time. Similar to this, it is these streams or forms which converts this quantum space of the mind stuff into quantized space-time of the mind stuff. If the quantum space-time in the loop quantum gravity is extrapolated in the backward direction, one gets a point or one reaches to a point where a single node of the spin network exists, which has no physical significance since loop quantum gravity is relational by nature. Similar to this, if the quantized spacetime of the mind stuff is extrapolated backward in the backward direction, one gets a point where only a form or a string exists from which other forms are created. And similar to physical spacetime, spacetime of mind stuff or yoga philosophy is also relational in nature, and such kind of forms generate the psychological era of time at the spacetime of the mind stuff. What happens in the state of superconsciousness, which is the highest meditative state? There are also many subclasses of superconsciousness in yoga philosophy. There will be absence of the forms, hence the spacetime of the mind stuff is merged into consciousness. By gradual practice of meditation, day by day, streams or forms in mind stuff are decreasing. So in LQG, the order of time is created when the evolution of the spin network is considered, that is spin form, while the state of superconsciousness makes the conscious being free of the order of time, where the mind stuff is merged into consciousness when the forms are gradually decreased through meditation. In this slide, I have shown comparison between physical spacetime and spacetime of mind stuff. Once John Wheeler told that mass tells spacetime how to curve and spacetime tells mass how to move. Similar to that sentence which was applied to general theory of relativity, in physical spacetime, the quantum field of massive particle tells the quantized spacetime how to curve, and quantized spacetime tells the quantum field of the massive particle how to move. While in spacetime of mind stuff, various forms which are the quantum of the mind stuff tells the quantized mind stuff how to curve, and the quantized mind stuff tells various forms how to move. Physical space-time follows locality. It means here speed of light is constant, while space-time of mind stuff doesn't follow locality. It means here phenomena are non-local. Both the space-time, that is physical, and space-time of mind stuff are relational in nature. In physical space-time, one-dimensional loops create the quantum space, while in space-time of mind stuff, the streams or forms creates the quantum space of the mind stuff. In physical spacetime, the spacetime singularities occurred when stellar or galactic object is converted into black hole in gravitational collapse, which is resolved by the Big Bounce model in the loop quantum gravity, while spacetime singularity of the mind stuff occur when the mind stuff reaches to the superconscious state. This singularity can also be resolved by quantization of spacetime of the mind stuff. Last point of discrepancy is the solution of the Wheeler-DeWitt equation in the loop quantum gravity is found at nodes of the spin network when this process is extrapolated in the backward direction, while the solution of quantum space of the mind stuff is found at the first form of first string, where this process is extrapolated in the backward direction in the meditative state. So here I conclude that in this research article, first of all, a literature survey is carried out regarding the relationship between quantum physics, consciousness, with the introduction of relationship between philosophy and physics. Thereafter, loop quantum gravity along with the spin network is briefly discussed in layman's terms. Thereafter, basics of Patanjali Yoga aphorism or yoga philosophy is discussed. Then, using new quantum spin perspective and Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the quantization of mind stuff is proposed. Later on, comparison between physical spacetime and spacetime of mind stuff is given. There are 3 research articles on new quantum spin perspective. First one is new quantum spin perspective and geometrical operators of quantum geometry. Second one is implication of new quantum spin perspective in quantum gravity. And third one is new quantum spin perspective and space-time of the mind stuff. Thank you very much for listening and watching. If you have any question regarding new quantum spin perspective, quantum theory of yoga and its implication, you can ask in the comment section. If you like my video, please share and subscribe my YouTube channel. Thank you very much.